What if the most dangerous drug of the 21st century isn't a substance at all, but simply the act of not sleeping? What if our culture of late-night hustle, binge-watching and constant grinding is pushing millions of us toward the same edge a 17-year-old boy reached back in 1964? An edge where reality starts to bend. Your memory fractures, and your brain begins to look alarmingly similar to one in the early stages of dementia. In 1964, a San Diego high school student named Randy Gardner stayed awake for 11 days and 25 minutes. That's 264 hours. The experiment, overseen by a Stanford sleep researcher and a Navy physician, became the most famous sleep deprivation study in history. Decades later, Randy himself struggled with chronic insomnia, and he publicly blamed that teenage stunt for wrecking his sleep for life. Modern science now suggests that if we keep treating sleep as optional, a whole generation could be heading for a slow-motion version of the same cognitive breakdown he experienced. It all started in late 1963. Randy Gardner, a 17-year-old, needed a killer idea for his science fair project. Instead of the usual volcano or circuit board, he and his friends decided to answer a simple question. What happens to a person who just stops sleeping? Initially, they just wanted to see if it affected his basketball skills, but it quickly became an endurance challenge to break the world record for wakefulness. No drugs, just pure willpower and a support crew to keep him from dozing off. It sounded like a teenage dare, but it would soon become a living laboratory for the limits of the human brain. News of the experiment spread, catching the attention of Dr. William Dement, a pioneering sleep researcher from Stanford. He drove down to San Diego, turning this backyard stunt into a quasi-clinical study. The U.S. Navy also got involved, sending a psychiatrist, LTC MDR, John Ross, to monitor Randy's mental state. Thanks to them, we have detailed day-by-day notes of what extreme wakefulness does to a healthy mind. For the first 48 hours, things didn't seem so bad. Randy felt tired, irritable, and had trouble focusing, the usual all-nighter symptoms. His friends kept him busy playing pinball, going bowling, and talking constantly, even making him talk through the bathroom door so he wouldn't fall asleep on the toilet. On the surface, it was playful, but underneath, the first cracks were already appearing. By day 3, the tone shifted. Randy's short-term memory started to fail. He'd forget what he was saying mid-spits. His speech became slurred and he felt nauseous. His body wasn't just tired anymore, it was stressed. While he could still beat Dr. Dement at pinball, the clinical notes told a different story. A teenager whose brain was losing precision in almost every way. Around day 5, the experiment entered truly scary territory. Randy started having hallucinations and paranoid episodes. He once mistook a street sign for a person. His mood swung wildly, and his emotions flattened out, as if the color had drained from the world. When asked to do a simple mental task subtracting 7 from 100 repeatedly, he got stuck at 65, unable to continue. These weren't just signs of exhaustion. They were signs of deep cognitive disorganization. By the final day 11 days and 25 minutes without sleep, Randy was an empty shell. He could stand for reporters and answer basic questions, but his speech was slurred and his face was expressionless. He needed constant encouragement just to stay engaged. When he finally hit the record, he was rushed to a naval hospital. His first sleep lasted 14 hours as his brain desperately tried to repay an impossible debt. In the weeks following, doctors said Randy seemed to have recovered with no obvious permanent damage. For years, the experiment was used as proof that even extreme sleep loss was reversible. But that wasn't the whole story. As an adult, Randy revealed he suffered from severe crippling insomnia for years, warning everyone never to repeat his experiment. Randy's ordeal became a landmark in sleep science. It helped prove that sleep isn't a luxury, but a biological necessity as vital as food and water. It also tightened ethical standards for human experiments and pushed researchers to study the long-term effects of sleep loss, which we now know are linked to depression, heart disease, and a weakened immune system. Today, Randy's story feels less like a historical oddity and more like a mirror. Many of us live in a state of chronic partial sleep deprivation, getting just 4 to 6 hours a night. We experience milder but continuous versions of his symptoms: poor focus, memory lapses, and mood swings. We now know that deep sleep is when the brain cleans itself, consolidates memories, and stabilizes emotions. Randy Gardner's 264 sleepless hours were an extreme, but the more dangerous story is the millions of us who are slightly sleep deprived year after year. If we continue with our 24/7 work culture and screen-filled nights, we're facing a public health crisis of cognitive decline and mood disorders. His experiment wasn't just a teenage stunt. It was a dramatic warning. It's a preview of what happens when an entire society tries to cheat the one biological rule that can't be broken. You have to sleep, and you can't escape the price if you don't. Thanks for watching. If this story made you think, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into science and history. Sleep well,